Hello guys. Today I want to take you to explore and investigate the crazy history of the abandoned mansion in Pennsylvania named Crane-Goldhardt House, a place shrouded in mystery and rumored to be haunted by a spirit of a silent film actress hanged herself in the house. I seriously doubt that tragic event really occurred. However, the abandoned house definitely worth exploring and filming. The sequence of events that took place in this house is closely intertwined with many well-known pages in the history of the early 20th century, such as the Harry Houdini phenomenon, early horror films, and the tragedy of the ocean liner Titanic. But the history of this place started long before the bustling 20th century, and its origins can be traced to 1813, when Andrew Dingman Jr. purchased the tract of land from Judge John Atkins. These parcels, along with other lands in and about the village, was passed by Andrew Dingman's last will to his only son Daniel Westbrook Dingman. Daniel Dingman owned the Delaware River Ferry between Pennsylvania and New Jersey, as had his father and grandfather before him. He was elected the second sheriff of Wayne County for usual 3-year term. After Pike County was formed, Dingman was appointed judge of the Court of Common Pleas for Pike County. Daniel Dingman owned the property until 1853. During his ownership, he built a small primitive house for his housekeeper, Sarah Cuff. According to a source which I can't check, that structure was first known building had existed on this place. In 1853, Robert Hatton Whitaker purchased 8 acres in Delaware Township from Judge Dingman. The future house site was included in this purchase. Robert Whitaker, a lifelong bachelor, seems to have lived in the former Dingman's housekeeper house, along with his maternal grandparents, his elderly parents, and his maiden aunt Sarah Hatton. In 1900s, Alice Richards Gray, who appears to have been Robert Whitaker's niece, purchased the property from him and rebuilt it and added a big barn. It was this purchase which established the boundaries of the future Crane-Goldhardt property. In 1906, she sold 2 tracts of land, totaling 4 acres for $1,700 to Margaret Crane. Margaret was an actress born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1875. She starred in a few movies in the middle of 20th century, such as All This and Heaven 2, The Bachelor's Daughters, A Wonderful Life, and even in the horror movie Hold That Ghost. In 1900s, she married Edward Gardner Crane, who changed the spelling of his last name and, for professional reasons, dropped his first name and became Gardner Crane. He was born in Marshfield, Massachusetts in 1874. Gardner was stage-struck at his early age and, over wishes of his parents, joined a troupe of actors and ran away from home. He pretty succeeded on the stage and starred in 2 silent movies. Both spouses were veterans of vaudeville stage and had developed a specialization in performing short skits or scenes from longer, more well-known works. Gardner had a weakness for speculating in financial ventures of dubious quality. This may have been why Margaret was listed as the purchaser of the property to hide it from Gardner's creditors. They completely rebuilt the house, and it acquired the appearance that has survived to the present day. It appears possible that this new house was constructed on the foundations of Alice Richards Gray's former residence. The Cranes seem to have used the house primarily as a summer residence or relaxing weekend getaway. In 1914, Gardner Crane's financial troubles caught up with him, and he was forced to file for bankruptcy, but thanks to Margaret's foresight, the house wasn't involved in debt payments. The Cranes continued to act in skits on the vaudeville stage, and this may have brought them to the attention of actress Valerie Berier. Miss Berier had left a long and spectacular career on the stage to go into the more demanding but financially rewarding world of vaudeville, where she prepared skits or excerpts of longer, more well-known plays for the vaudeville stage. By 1921, the Cranes were in Shanghai, China. They signed the deed conveying the house and grounds to Herbert Warren and Valerie Berier for $7,500. At the end of the era of vaudeville, the Cranes did not do well out there, and it was in relative poverty that Gardner Crane died in 1939, survived by his wife Margaret. Valerie Berier was a French-born actress who had a near 50-year career in theater and cinema. She acted in many local productions there and in Paris until arriving in America in 1892. Berier began her long vaudeville career in 1902. In the theater world, she was well known as actor and producer. By the end of the 1920s, when vaudeville was dying, Valerie and her husband embraced a new form of entertainment and headed to Hollywood to work in the cinema. I was incredibly lucky to find an old movie where Valerie was starred a year before her death.
He doesn't answer now, miss.
I know why. Because he's too ashamed.
And he does love me, doesn't he, Madeline?
Of course he does, dear.
And I love him too.
Afraid. It's only tape on public resources to see her alive. The Central Library of Philadelphia contains tons of old newspaper articles telling about vaudeville and theatrical life of those days, where I managed to dig up some interesting facts. As usual, you can find the links to the historical resources I used in the investigation for your own research. Apart from it, I would like to express my appreciation to Terry Bender Greenwald, a circulation supervisor at Pike County Public Library, for her help in this research. It is possible that Valerie used the renovated barn both for the rehearsal of plays she may have wished to use on the vaudeville stage, as well as for living quarters for actors. Believe some rooms in this house were used to host her troupe. Valerie died in Hollywood in 1938. Her husband Herbert Warren died 2 years later in Manhattan. The next owner of the house was Eddie Darling, theatrical celebrity, and a major figure in the history of vaudeville. Eddie retired from the Keith Orpheum and bought the Crane House from Berier and Warren in 1931. Well-known discoveries that Eddie Darling made and brought onto stage included singer Sophie Tucker, the legendary artist Harry Houdini, comedy couple Burns and Allen, and famous Milton Berle, the comedy coach of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Eddie used the house as an occasional weekend retreat and summer home. When Darling was absent, Fred Houdini, the caretaker, looked after the property. Fred, a native of the area, started working for Darling about 1933 and took care of the house and property at all for many years. He married Edna Gunn, the daughter of the Dingman village blacksmith. After Fred's death, his duties as house caretaker were taken over by his son Frank Houdini, who looked after the homestead for the next owners, the Goldhard family. William Goldhard, a descendant of German immigrants who arrived in New York in 1888, purchased the mansion with all improvements on the premises. The property acquired the name the Crane-Goldhardt House, by which we know it today. He worked as a manger in the Hudson Theater in Manhattan, owned by Henry Harris, a theatrical producer. Harris and his wife Renee traveled in Europe on a vacation in early 1912. They happened to return to New York on the White Star liner Titanic. Mrs. Harris was lucky, if I may say so, to board the last lifeboat and be rescued. However, Henry Harris was one of the hundreds who died in Titanic's sinking on April 1912. I was fortunate to find a non-fiction book, A Night to Remember, on Amazon containing the description of last hours of Henry's life. He was a pretty heroic man with strong spirit who placed his wife in a lifeboat and went down with the ship. The author of the book, Walter Lord, served as a consultant to James Cameron during the filming the romantic disaster movie Titanic. After 1978, the house was handed to the National Park Service for stewardship and became a part of Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, scattered with numerous, so attractive for explorers, historic abandoned houses.